Hi YouTubers, this is today's victim, if you like. This is my son's T31, I think they're called, X-Trail. These are the second generation of X-Trail, which whilst they look quite similar to the first ones, they are mechanically and the point of view of the engines and all got completely different. I have to say I do really like these cars. Both of my sons happen to have them. These are sort of the 170 brake versions, top of the range ones, which are a very nice car to drive. I think good practical family car, nice big motor, good thing all round. So anyway, we've got it jacked up, we've got axle stands under it, we've got the wheel off, at least the one wheel. We've got the wheels chocked at the front so it ain't rolling anywhere. I think about the safety of these things, a big heavy car. Right, we've got the wheel off. I'm going to have a look at the disc now. And it's been getting some noises here, and as you can see, it's pretty ugly, this disc, really. And I think he's pretty much had his money's worth out of the disc pads in there. So the next step's going to be to take the brake caliper off, which there's that nut there. I don't know whether you can see it very well, and there'll be another one further down as well. I have to say the brake calipers do look a little worse for wear, a bit corroded, and I have to check out these sliding pins here, make sure they're all moving, because you can see what some of my previous videos we've had fun with these caliper carriers, and how they can affect the performance of it all. The other thing to notice with these, quite common with a lot of vehicles these days, whilst these are disc brakes, there's a drum inside of there which is what is used for the handbrake. And the thing you have to do is that little rubber bung there, you have to pull the rubber bung out, and there's an adjuster inside which you have to flick with a screwdriver to slacken off, so you can actually, once you've got the caliper and everything out of the way, so that you can actually pull the whole disc stroke drum off, if you like. Right, I think this should show you everything you need to undo. There's the bolts there that hold the caliper on. There's a 19mm one up in there, 14mm on the carrier, another 14mm on the top of the carrier there, another 19mm in there, and I would definitely recommend, because these are going to be tight, that you use a single hex socket. When I say that, I mean that type of socket, not the bi-hexagons, because these are going to be tight, and sometimes the single hex definitely grips better. Same goes with those bolts, they'll be pretty tight, so you know, decent quality ring spanners, or you know, for choice. If you haven't got yourself a breaker bar like this, you really should invest with them in one. They're not very expensive, but as you can see, they're an awful lot longer than your average half-inch drive ratchet. You have to use them with a bit of caution. I mean, when you're cracking nuts like this on the back of the brake caliper carrier that are a bit rusted in and stuff like that, they're a great tool, but be very careful with them. You know, you can shear things off very easily. And also, I wouldn't be using them for tightening things up too much, because, like I say, a lot more leverage. It's very easy to shear bolts off. Right, I've cracked the caliper carrier bolts, those in there, and that's the 19mm, the one down the bottom as well. And I've got the one sliding pin bolt out. The bottom one was very tight, and I did use the breaker bar just to crack it. Obviously all this stuff further down on brake things like this tends to be the bits and bobs that are running about in the spray off the road, and they do get a bit rusty. There's the caliper carrier pin come out, a little bit rusty, that'll have to get a bit of a clean up. The top one's out there. The trouble is, it fouls the brake pipe. So we've either got to take the brake pipe off, which means breaking the hydraulic seal, or I think we'll see if when we get this top bolt out, whether we can swing the whole lot off in one piece. Hopefully. Right then, as I found, once you've got the bottom sliding pin out, the top one I'll pull off, and it'll all slide out like that. Best thing to do is put the caliper up on there. I think in a minute we'll try and hang it off of a bit of wire off the spring so it doesn't fall on the floor and damage the hose, which is a little dry looking. Right, the next thing is this caliper carrier should come off. Right, it seems like you've got to give it a little bit of tapping with a mallet, and off it comes. There's the whole carrier assembly with the pads in. Yeah, I think we've had touch down there, metal to metal contact. So what we'll do with this, we will take the pads out, and I'll be filing out the bottom of the groove to clean the bits of rust and things like that out. And we'll be putting some grease down inside of the pin slider things to keep them lubed up. We're going to have a little one-handed poke at the rubber pin plugs, and what we'll have to do is turn this disc around until I find where the adjuster is. When I've done that, I'll show you. Right, I don't know whether we're going to be able to see this, but with the wheel in that position, if I shine the torch in there, I can see it, but probably not on the camera. No. There is a little wheel. You just about see one of the sort of teeth on it there. Now you've got to spin that, levering it with the tip of a screwdriver to back off the brake shoes. Hopefully I'll show you that when we've got the disc stroke drum off, and you'll be able to see what it does. This is kind of hard to show, but you've got to put your screwdriver in like that and work the little wheel round to slack off the adjuster. Right, I had to sort of push downwards all the time to rotate the adjuster nut in that direction to get it to slack off, and you can tell it's slacked off because the brake has all gone nice and loose, and they do tend to get rusted into the middles like that. So I have given it a few hard belts with a mallet, and as you can see, I've sort of cracked the rust off, and the disc will come off now. And there you can see the handbrake shoes, and down in there, not very good in this light, if I shine a torch on it, it might help. There you can see the adjuster, and what I was doing was turning that wheel in that direction like that, pushing on the bottom to slacken off. When we put the shoes, the new discs on, we obviously have to adjust it in the opposite way, so it's taking up the slack, but obviously not too tight to rub. To be honest, I might be a bit inclined to change these handbrake shoes. They don't get an awful lot of wear because they don't do any braking when you're pushing the foot brake. That's what the pads do. So yeah, since we haven't got any, and it's during well, not lockdown, but the sort of COVID thing, most of the car parts suppliers that are local to me, and there's 2 or 3 that are pretty reliable, they all seem to decide to shut on Saturday. So I don't think we'll be changing those today. Right, here we are then. There's a new disc compared to the old one. He's had his money's worth, and he's certainly had his money's worth out of those pads. Look at that. Like a dog's dinner. There's a new one for comparison. There's the new brake pad numbers. And that one, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be relying on that too much if you're going to do the thing on the same car. Always make sure you get your parts from a reputable supplier, and make sure they got your reg number and all that, because even that's not always that reliable with brakes, because you tend to find that cars, you can have the same model of cars and it's got 2 different brake systems on it, and lo and behold, the one you order, once you've got it all apart, you got the wrong one. So you've then got to take it back and all the rest of it, and got your car off the road in the meantime. So, you know, sometimes it is worth whipping a wheel off, you know, measuring the size of the discs and checking the brand of the components if you can see it, before you go off trying to buy them. Right, here we are, ready to put things back together. The brake disc stroke drum, I want to call it, is a good clean with actual brake cleaner, because when they're delivered they are covered with a light oil. Obviously you don't want oil on your brakes, so I've given them a good clean and a good wipe over with a rag, both the surfaces of the disc and on the inside on that drum. That's the caliper carrier with the pads slid in, ready to go. Notice the back one has the pad with the little tang thing on the back, which is to generally help stop squealing. I'm going to put a bit of copper slip on the pins, the sliding pins that go in there. You can get proper brake grease. That's the sliding pins. I don't have any proper brake grease, and like I say, the shops are all shut these days on a Saturday, so a little light smear of copper slip will stop them seizing up in the future. I have to say I'm a bit surprised how rusty this is, considering alright, the vehicle is 13 years old and it has got 100,000 miles on the clock, but it's quite rusty really. I think next time we do pads, I think we'd be replacing that. The other thing to notice, these disc pads have these little anti-squeal shims. I wish I could speak English rather than West Country. They just sit on the back, make sure they're in place when you put it back on. Right, the disc assembly slides back on like so. Notice I've got the little hole sort of lined up where the adjuster is going to be. That's going to be the next step, adjust that up. And then we're going to put the brake caliper back on. Right, brake caliper carrier, slides back on, something like that. Get the top bolt in. I told lies, I haven't adjusted the handbrake shoes up yet. So I put this on first and make sure it all goes together. You just decide to start. Right. He doesn't want to go in. Bit of judicious wobbling with the knee. Right, long last, these decide to go back in, and I have to emphasise to you that these bolts have got to be done tight. There's the other bolt. There he is. There he is. Down the bottom there. So we put the 1/2-inch ratchet on these. Tighten them up, get them proper. Right, this is another thing I forgot to mention. You need to squeeze the caliper pistons back in this case a nice large pair of slip joint pliers, water pump pliers, gas tongs, whatever you want to call them. They seem to have millions of names. I tend to call them water pump pliers. And a really big pair like this is a very handy thing for your average DIYer, because they'll undo all sorts of things and squeeze things and hold things. Right, the caliper swings into position like this with a little bit of copper slip on the sliding pin up there. It slides in position like that, and we can now do these pins up. The other one's down there. I haven't cleaned that and copper slipped it yet. He slides in down at the bottom down there. And give him a little copper slip and pop him in, and then I think we'll try the foot brake and make sure it pinches that. Then we'll adjust that back up, and that'll be the end of one side. Cup of tea and do the other side, I think. Right, we're going to tighten up these, not with that spanner I don't think. Take it in a bit further by hand. We can get a ratchet spanner on there, hopefully. And hopefully the right way round. Oh no, that's the wrong way. That would be the right way. Like that. Some of my videos for these ratchet spanners are very handy, great work savers. In more confined spaces, I will tighten that up a bit tighter with a. I wouldn't lean a lot of weight on ratchet spanners, but certainly in confined spaces in engine compartments and things like that, they really are excellent spanners. And you can buy some fairly cheap ones now that are reasonable. So I think what we'll do now is put the regular ring spanner on there and give that a good pinch up. That's one thing I do like about ring spanners, is they're longer than ordinary spanners. You can lean on them a bit harder. Right, so that's all that back in now. So like I say, we're going to adjust the handbrake bit up, and hopefully that's the job's a good one. Like I say, time for a cup of tea. Right, I've adjusted the brakes by spinning the little wheel, just enough so the brakes are dragging a bit, but not too much. If you do it too much, the brakes will drag all the time, it'll all get hot, wear the pads away, the shoes away rather, and waste fuel as well. Right, little rubber bung put back in, time to put the wheel on.